growing up, we were told once saved, always saved. And we were told that this was a big difference between Protestants and Catholics. That Protestants believed that you could have assurance of your salvation, whereas Catholics believed that you could lose it. And the way they talked about losing it was always almost you could do it accidentally. Like there was this, you could just slip up one day and lose your salvation. Like it was an easy thing to do. So the idea was that Catholics have Catholic guilt. They're always obsessed about whether they're going to become, be saved or not. Whereas Protestants can rest easy knowing that we are always saved. The problem is that even if it is true that once saved, always saved, you don't actually know that you are part of that. You don't know that that applies to you. You do not know that you are one of the once saved, right? So what's to keep you from being like lots of people who live their lives very devout and then fall away from the faith and they die in that state, right? What's the difference between that? Well, they were assured for years that they were part of that. But then they say, oh, well, if they fell away, it turns out they just weren't part of the once saved, always saved, which is a little bit like saying, that it's like believing in soulmates. And then when you and your wife get divorced, you say, well, it just turns out she wasn't my soulmate. Well, then the concept of soulmates doesn't actually help you. It doesn't actually prove that what you're in is that. That was a real head game growing up where I asked my pastor, I was like, well, how do we know if we're one of the elect? Even if we believe in election, how do we know we're one of them? And the answer was, well, you make it to the end of your life without leaving the faith. Which, okay, well, then it turns out that's the exact amount of assurance that Catholics have, which is make it to the end of your life without leaving the faith and you'll go to heaven, right? So it turns out that's true for both. So, I think a lot of times what we do is we take our own psychological issues and our own states and we project it onto theology. So we think, and for a lot of people, there are a lot of people like Luther who were Catholic, had a lot of scrupulosity and anxiety about going to confession all the time and, just really real head cases. And then when they became Protestant, they felt a big sense of relief. But really, there's lots of people like me who were raised Protestant, became Catholic and had a big sense of relief as well. So, so it just depends on where you're coming from.